Hi, I'm Dan Music. In this video, we'll show you how to weigh a garage door without unwinding the torsion spring or loosening the extension springs.
To do this, you'll need an analog scale. Analog scales are more accurate than all but the more expensive digital scales, so for our purposes, analog is the one you want. A bathroom scale should work fine for most garage doors. Unplug the opener, then disengage the opener arm from the rail. Make sure the arm is free and that the door has actually been disengaged, or you can damage the door or opener. On each side of the door, track brackets secure the tracks to the jambs. Vice grip the cables to one of these brackets on each side of the door. This allows the cables to come loose so that the full weight of the door can rest on the scale. Depending on the type of door you have, the method of lifting the door differs. Wood doors are simpler and more straightforward to lift. Lifting steel doors is more involved because the steel can easily bend. Let's start with the instructions for wood doors, and then we'll show you how to weigh steel doors. Wood doors. All you need to lift a wood door are one pry bar or crowbar, one medium 2x4 at least 4 feet long, which will be used in prying up the door, and one short 2x4 or 4x4 at least a foot long, which will act as a fulcrum. You may also need to level the surface of the floor once the door is lifted. This can be done by using small pieces of wood to ensure the scale sits parallel to the door. Begin lifting the door using a pry bar. Slide the fulcrum board under the bar and lift the door. Slide the 2x4 under the door, lower the door onto the board, and remove the pry bar. Lift up on the door using the long 2x4. Slide the fulcrum board under the 2x4 and lift the door further. Then slide the scale under the center of the door and lower the door onto the scale. Finally, pull out the boards shake the door to allow the weight to settle, and take your measurement. Next, lift up the door using the long 2x4. Slide out the scale and lower the door. Then insert the pry bar, remove the 2x4, and lower the door. Once the door is resting on the floor, check to see that there is no slack in the cables and remove the vice grips. Then re-engage the opener and plug the opener back in. Steel doors. Steel doors need to be raised more carefully because they can warp and bend if not lifted properly. It's important to make sure that you begin lifting the door by prying up on the bottom fixture rather than the center of the door to keep from damaging the door. To raise the door, you'll need one crowbar or pry bar, one long 2x4 which will sit under the door and disperse the door's weight, one medium 2x4 which will be used in prying up the door, one short 2x4 or 4x4 which will act as a fulcrum, and 4 2x4s which will be used to hold the door up. You may also need to level the surface of the floor once the door is lifted. This can be done by using small pieces of wood to ensure the scale sits parallel to the door. Begin by prying up one end of the door, placing your first board under the door, then raising the other end and placing the second board under it. Repeat this process so that you have 2 boards under the door and are able to slide the long 2x4 under the door. Next, position the boards as shown. Pry up the long board, slide the medium board under, and remove the crowbar. Then lift up with the medium board and slide the short board under it to be used as a fulcrum and lift the door further. Next, slide the scale under the door and center the scale under the door and lower the door onto the scale. Finally, pull the boards out, shake the door, and take your measurement. Once you have the weight, lift up the door, slide out the scale, and lower the door onto the boards on either ends of the door. You'll need to reverse the process you used to raise the door in order to lower it safely to the ground. Pry up the door, then remove one board. Then go to the other side of the door and pry up the door and remove the other two boards and lower the door. Then go to the other side and remove the last board supporting the door. Once the door is on the ground, check to make sure there is no slack in the cables and remove the vice grips. Then re-engage the opener and plug the opener back in.
I'm Dan Music. I hope you found this video helpful.